Antivaxxers have a new tactic.
They're saying their vaccination status is a disability.
And you think that's crap?
Not at all. I think not having a brain is incontrovertible evidence of a disability.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
About 250 cops, nurses, firefighters and prison guards are going to lodge a claim with the Australian Human Rights Commission. If the HRC finds that their anti-vax stance is indeed a disability, then it will give them grounds to go to the federal court and seek reinstatement and back pay. Not that the cops who are part of the action need back pay because they're stood down on their full wage, which is pretty close to the Oxford Dictionary definition of the word holiday.
Hardly seems fair.
That's exactly what the state's other 8,000 coppers are probably saying right now, after having spent the weekend dealing with this. And lawyers are already talking about a second wave, with FIFOs and tradies potentially joining the action.
And you have my bow.
And my axe.
Our newly anointed governor, Police Commissioner Chris Dawson, is a respondent to the claim, which will create quite the constitutional pickle if the anti-vaxxers win and the state government has to make new laws, which have to be signed off by a new governor. There's a lot riding on this case, because if the Human Rights Commission determines that stupidity is a disability, which would be an affront to the millions of Australians who are living with genuine disabilities, we might see a class action from Australian politicians. That last person is West Australian Upper House member Pierre Yang. Pierre would have a particularly compelling case vis-a-vis stupidity because he is spearheading the drive to have St John Ambulance stripped of the right to provide paramedicine services in WA. He wants it brought in-house as a state government service, which makes complete sense because if there's one thing that successive state governments have done well, it's healthcare.
Hospitals are under strain. Ambulance response times have blown out. But ambulance ramping has never been this bad.
He's about to hand down his report.
When not moonlighting as an apologist for the Chinese Communist Party, Pierre is chair of the WA Parliament's Public Administration Committee. He's also a member of the United Workers Union, which will pick up hundreds of due-paying new members if St John's loses the contract and their workers become public servants.
Curious.
Even more curious is the timing of the run of bad press that's besetting St John's at the moment. St John's boss, Michelle Fyfe, who is fighting Pierre's ridiculous plan, is rightly under pressure from revelations her ambulances are failing to arrive on time and in some instances arriving with no paramedics on board. March was a particularly bad period. Only 70% of Priority 1 call-outs arrived within the designated 15-minute window. United Workers Union National Ambulance Coordinator Fiona Scalan says that's Michelle's fault. Michelle has pointed to the fact that St John's is no different to any other organisation. Its available workforce is down because they've got COVID, which is hardly surprising because ambos spend a lot of time dealing with people who have COVID.
And it's not just WA that's got a problem.
Not at all. 2 South Australians recently died waiting for an ambulance. One waited 56 minutes and the other 45. They should have been seen within 16 minutes. Michelle will quietly be making the point that South Australia's ambulance service is run by the government. And she will also be pointing out the relationship between March's poor call-out performance in WA and that month's near-record level of ambulance ramping outside clogged EDs, which took dozens of paramedics off the road. A situation I'm sure even Pierre wouldn't have to spend too much time analysing to see cause and effect.
And are you starting to see a pattern forming here?
Michelle might be looking for another job.
Well, there's one going. She might be interested in it.
The aim is to try and conclude the process by early July so we can have a new police commissioner appointed.
Before she joined St John, Fyfe was a cop, a very senior cop, an assistant commissioner in charge of crime. She got fresh eyes across the Claremont serial killer case, and the cops, as we know, eventually caught Bradley Edwards. She was one of 3 candidates shortlisted to be police commissioner when Carl O'Callaghan resigned in 2017. Chris Dawson, obviously, got the gig, and Michelle sought greener pastures. That's actually quite clever because paramedics wear green and cops wear blue.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Michelle has some support amongst the coppers, and there's no doubt they are in her ear about putting her hand up.
Is she a chance?
Well, appointing the first female police commissioner in the state's history would be appealing for McGowan, given he's just appointed another middle-aged white guy in uniform as governor. And on paper, Michelle's got the credentials. She was a cop for 33 years and acted decisively when she needed to.
Like ASIC.
Well, Australia's corporate watchdog isn't famous for being tough on crime, but it was quick to crack down on Melbourne Footy Club tragic and infamous border breacher Mark Babbage. The Australian Securities and Investments Commission has banned him from providing financial services or engaging in credit activities for 10 years. ASIC says his conviction for breaching WA's hard border to watch the Demons beat the Dogs in Perth means he lacks honesty and integrity. The ruling will be of particular interest to the companies who still count Nev Power as a board member. It's not directly applicable because the businesses Nev is still involved with aren't in the credit game, but it's close enough to warrant some uncomfortable conversations.
I just don't think things are going to work out.
Nev has resigned from his chairmanships of Perth Airport, the Royal Flying Doctor Service and the Foundation for the WA Museum. But he's still on the board of gold miner Genesis, which is run by local boy done good and all-round nice guy Raleigh Finlayson. Raleigh has assured investors that Genesis was, quote-unquote, having those conversations right now. The discussion shouldn't be a long one because the Corporations Act is pretty clear about what needs to happen. It says directors are automatically disqualified from their position if they are convicted of an offence that involves dishonesty and is punishable by imprisonment for at least 3 months. The Act defines dishonest as according to the standards of ordinary people.
So you reckon Nev meets the criteria?
You're an ordinary person, what do you think? Don't ask us. Ask the judge who presided over his case. This is what the magistrate Elizabeth Woods said about the curious case of Nick and Nev. The accused avoided the system completely. Both seem to have had the view any time in quarantine was wasted time. It was a deliberate choice by each of the two accused, and in my view, it was a disrespectful and foolish choice. It showed a significant lack of judgment with potential for very serious consequences to the community. It's not just Raleigh's mind which is being exercised by this problem. Two of Perth's most prominent deal makers are also wondering what to do with their problem child. Mike Angie is Chief Executive of Disability Services Group APM, and John Poynton is Chairman of gas player Strike Energy, which clearly needs to tidy up its website. Nev's on a leave of absence from those companies while Mike and John work out what to do, because if Nev has to leave, he's going to leave a big hole.
You want me, you need me, you can't live without me.
That's why they targeted him in the first place.
Something deep in your soul calls out to me like a foghorn.
People in the know understand that having Nev on your board is money in the bank.
Not like the GST.
Well, that's money in a bank, just not necessarily ours, unfortunately. When did forever mean 4 years?
Good question.
That's how long before the Productivity Commission reviews the GST deal that puts a floor under what WA gets back from the tax. And while the Libs and Labor have both pledged to uphold the deal, they are stopping conspicuously short of saying they will uphold it past 2026.
I didn't say that. Don't hold me to that.
Because they both know that if, as expected, Mark McGowan hands down an $8 billion surplus this year, it's going to piss off a lot of people in the eastern states who are dealing with monstrous deficits. And those people will all go to the polls, so whoever is Prime Minister at that time can't abandon them.
Call me.
Yeah, but they also can't abandon WA.
It's a tough spot to be in.
Rock. Hard place. Me.
In 2026, West Australians will find out who our real friends are. I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.